All right. Welcome to another episode of 41 Entertainment Spotlight. We are, I am Cedric Lyons with Tamika
Man.
B. We are really,
Hello.
really, we're really, really excited about who we have next on our show today. She's normally doing the interviews, so if I mess up, she'll let me know because this I'm never doing interviews. I'm not as good as she is, but this is Valder Beebe. If you know Valder Beebe, she has the Valder Beebe show, and uh, just name a couple of the people that she interviewed. I'm gonna name one, and if I do it wrong, she'll let me know. She's interviewed Dr. Phil and Terry McMillan. So I'm scared right now. So
Then you
you
gonna
know,
mess up, Zed?
yeah, yeah, oh yeah, I know I am.
Well, I prepped you well.
Yeah, you did. You did, but still, when you're in front of your mentor, look, I'm stumbling right now. How
You
you
are
doing,
shaking
Router?
in your boots, man.
I'm doing
It's
good.
not good.
Good. It is like I said, it's a pleasure being on the show. You've been a part of the radio station since February of 2018, right? Is that correct?
That's about right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a minute or two, and I do my own surveys every once in a while too. Your show has really been rated one of the top shows on the radio station. So
Well, thank you.
I guess we got to redo that contract, huh?
I think so. It's almost time.
Well, I'm broke after this interview. So tell us, how'd you get into the whole that in that celebrity show and your gospel show, and how did you get to that? How did you start that whole process?
Well, I started the show. I had a partner in the beginning. It was two of us, it's me and my
Hmm.
partner, Gloria. And then Gloria decided that she wanted to go back to school and get her degree. So that left me with the show. And I had to find a way to keep the show different and new. So we looked at the interviews, and I was interviewing people like Tyler Perry and Mary, different
Hmm.
people. And so we decided to just try to focus a lot on celebrities, but still include everyday interviews. And so
Hmm.
it turned into the Valder Beebe show, that celebrity interview.
And the questions that you asked, like recently, you're into this health thing. I saw the HIV awareness, and you got the COVID thing. You're into that now. When you look at shows and when you're looking at who to interview, what is your process?
Well, I work with professional publicists. I have a team
Mm,
of people. It's not just me. I am the face and I'm the brand of the Valder Beebe show, but I have two producers. I have an intern. I have a publicist. And what they do is they have relationship with other publicists. So we have a wide variety of publicists that solicit us every day to say,
wow.
we've got this guest, be great for your show. And because I've done the show for quite a while, I think I'm pretty high on their solicitation list.
Hmm.
So we get real good solicitations of guests to come on the show. And we can pretty much choose who we want to be on the show.
Hmm. And so, who has been some of your favorites? I know you don't necessarily have a favorite, but some of the better interviews or better people you've spoken with that made the show that much more grand.
Well, I have to pull it up because I've been doing the show so very long. I have to remember who's been on the show. So we have a list of people that we send out, like if it's a new publicist and they want to put somebody on the show. So I've got my list up. I'll tell you some of the people who've been on here. The mayor of Austin,
Hmm.
his name is Steve Adler, Dr. Phil. There's a lady in Congress. Her name is Jackie Spears. She's a
Hmm.
congresswoman. She was a part of that Jim Jones massacre, and she survived. Those are the kind
Wow.
of
Wow.
people I get to
Wow.
talk to. Dr.
Wow.
Richard Besser, he was the former head of the CDC. I just talked to him recently about COVID. Patti LaBelle, Tyler Perry, Chef Emeril Lagasse, Layla Ali, Mary, Erica uh, and Wayne Campbell. That's different from Mary Mary. That's Erica and her husband. And then also
Mhm.
I've interviewed Mary Mary. The list is so long. It really is. Some of the people aren't even living anymore, such as Carol Channing. She's
Oh
passed
wow.
away, but she was a guest on my show. Cheryl Ladd from Charlie's Angels. I mean, the list
Hmm.
is really, really long.
Yeah, I saw you interview Dr. Youssef from Central Park,
I'm
who we
sorry,
got.
could you repeat that?
Yeah, Central. I saw you interview Dr. Youssef Salam for Central Park 5, right?
Yes.
Yeah. How was that interview?
Interesting. My goal is always to bring information to the public so they can get off and say, I need to look that up. I need to find out more about that.
Hmm.
I want to, I have that particular condition and I want to get some more information on that. So his interview, like all the other interviews, is very informative.
Hmm.
I
And
like
that's
I
what.
like to ask a question. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Sid. Finish.
No,
And
go
then,
ahead. Go ahead. You got. Go ahead.
well, I want because it intrigues me that you interviewed Carol Channing
Yes.
and Carol Channing. I think yeah. I mean, I'm 45, but I'm an old head. Like I used to watch all those black and white movies and all the comedies. And Carol Channing was one of my favorite women. During the interview, did she ever talk about her past and how she came out about certain things about herself?
She did just a little bit. She had come to terms with that, and I think she even wrote a book on that. But she
Mm-hmm.
came out, and Carol Channing was of African American descent,
Hmm.
Yes,
is
you're right.
probably what you're asking. And yes, she
Yeah.
talked about that a little bit, but she had come to terms with it, and it was a part of who she was. So it was more of a bigger deal to us than it was to her.
To her. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we make more of a
I
bigger
think that
deal.
made me smile hearing that one.
So we make more of a bigger deal out of things, and I mean, because when you interview people, they say there's just regular people, but then we make a bigger deal out of them, don't we?
We do. We're the ones who elevate people. A lot of times people don't try to elevate themselves. We
Hmm.
elevate them. We say, "Oh, you're so
Yeah.
good, you're so smart, you're so pretty," or whatever we're saying. And they're just going, "I'm just me." Now there are
Hmm.
people who catch
Right.
on to that and use it and sell it in the media and things like that, but celebrityism come from us. Not
Hmm.
everybody is trying to be a celebrity. Usually people are either trying to get their message out or trying to be supportive of something. That's usually, I would say, 50% of the people that I get a chance to talk to. And I think that's people in the media altogether. Then you get
Hmm.
the nutty people like the Kardashians. They're selling anything from, the hair on their head to the color of their lips. They'll sell
Hmm.
any and everything. And I think that's a separate category.
Hmm. Well, talk about media a little bit. Talk to us about how diffusing or important media can be, because media can be that divisive thing that people go to without necessarily knowing a person. That could be that, I don't know the person, but this is what media is saying, so I'm going to base my opinion based off of what they're saying, and it may not necessarily be true. So how important is that for you when you talk to your audience, that they get the real stuff and not what media is saying?
Well, it's just my job or my commitment to myself and to what I've created is to find the facts. And that's what I'm always looking for. I'm always looking
Hmm.
for the facts. People come on and sell a lot of things on the Valder BB show. They're selling, once again, their belief in something. Right now, everybody's selling their belief and understanding of COVID-19. And so I'm looking for the facts. People will come on and say, wash your hands and wear a mask and social distance yourself. So I'll ask them, why do you believe that that can be an effective tool? And people will usually tell you, well, I had a relative pass from COVID-19 and we didn't practice those particular steps. And now I know those steps are important. So we just have to, in the media, you just have to ask the right questions. Simple as that.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Oh, so I need to go get my mask now. I need to go get my mask so I can social distance. from the
No, we're
computer screen?
social distancing now
Okay,
because we're
okay,
all in our
okay,
separate rooms. So we're okay. You, me, and Tamika, we're okay right now.
okay.
Yes.
I was making sure the computer didn't have COVID-19 either. You know, because I don't have a
Well,
mask.
yesterday one of my guests came on and they told us that COVID can live on a surface such as a cell phone or a door handle or a
Mhm.
desk or something like that for up to like 28 hours.
Mm,
Yeah,
I need
Hmm.
Lysol. I need Lysol then.
that's very true.
You need some kind of disinfectant. Yeah, you do.
Hmm.
You really do. And don't get lax because we've been in COVID so long. And I take these things seriously when people come on my show. We don't pre-vet them, but I work with agencies that are pre-vetting them because all of our names are on the line. So
Hmm.
I don't get a lot of crackpots, not unless they're in an independent interview. And I do some independent interviews where people, they don't come through an agency. They might have written a book and they'll send us a book and they want to be on the show. But most of the people are pre-vetted by the agency, so they're not too crazy.
So, question: as far as when you're doing your interviews, has there been some time you did an interview that you learned so much and said, "Oh wow, I got to keep that for myself. I got to keep." As far as the knowledge that you're getting from your interviewees, are there some times you remember? Okay, you know what? That's some pretty good information. I got to keep that.
Every interview, I am always the person in the audience for my interview. That's how I do interview. Things I either know or want to know. So
Hmm.
I will ask those questions. Then also too, a lot of when the guest comes on the show, I've already either done a Facebook post the previous week or my team has done a Facebook post and we have their questions for them or their comments. So when I'm talking to the guest, I will say, okay, I've got this Instagram post and they want to know, you said take a supplement, but are supplement, you just take the supplement or do you need to see your doctor? Because they've already made that inquiry on social media. So I'm
Hmm.
always the regular person on the show. And then I just channel the questions from the audience.
Hmm. And that's kind of what I
Okay.
like to do too. Is you know your range of people that you interviewed, and I'm talking about just not just political, but you go from the quote unquote atheist to the quote unquote Christianity or Muslim. How do you decipher those things? Do you just let's talk about this, or is there a way that you can decipher each one of those interviews without having to get mixed up?
I do. It's just like talking to people. When you're talking to somebody, if you talk to Tamika, you pretty much know what subject you guys are going to talk about, or me,
Hmm.
you're going to know what we're going to talk about. Well, that's how I do with my interviews. My producers book the interviews. We have a weekly meeting. We say, okay, these people we thought would be good for the show because of COVID-19 or because breast cancer awareness month. I get a script to tell me everything about that guest that I need to know for an interview.
Hmm.
So I'm very prepared. And you and I had this conversation. People think that interviews in the media are very unscripted. We're 90% scripted when we do an interview because each interview comes with okay, don't ask that.
Yeah.
We're not going to answer that. This is the
Hmm.
topic we want to stay on. And
Right.
what I mean by that, just say someone comes on with a healthcare topic.
Hmm.
They want, usually right now they're selling healthcare plans for the fall for older Americans. They usually don't want to
Right.
they don't want to respond to, okay, in the Supreme Court, the Affordable Care Act is going to be going before the Supreme Court on November the 13th. Is your company advocating for us as your
Hmm.
clients? They'll give me a list of things they don't want to talk about because a lot of times they aren't prepared or they don't want to start controversy for their company.
Hmm.
So I know where to go and where not to go with them.
Hmm. Okay. Having said that, you talk about I listened to a lot of your interviews. I've heard a lot of your stuff before. Your first, do you remember your first interview? The very first one you had?
Yes. Strangely enough, and it was the most difficult interview I've ever had. My first interview was with Deepak Chopra. I don't know if you know who he is. Deepak Chopra is
I know who he is.
You know who Deepak Chopra is, right? Yeah. He's deep. He's really, really deep. And he's a person that is a person of very few words. He don't say anything he don't need to say. So the whole interview was carried on me. Now, remember, I was a novice at this on my first interview. But I had been I don't want to say a follower, but I was very aware of Deepak Chopra. I'd done some mind-body study. I'd attended a Unity Church, which is a metaphysical church. So I had an understanding of him. So we could talk on the plane of, remember, I'm the regular audience person. So we talked on, does meditation really work? What are the steps for meditation? People have a hard time to stop so that they can get into that meditative state. What does it take to really meditate? I say, I don't want the textbook answer. I need a real answer. So I think I did a really good job on my first interview, and I will never forget my Deepak interview.
So you had to put a lot of stuff out. You had to actually pull stuff out of him because he's, like you said, he don't say anything that he don't want to say. So,
no, he gives yes and no answers or concise answers, but he doesn't have any superfluous words. He's not a person to waste words. He doesn't do that. And so the interview had to be carried by me.
Right, and see, but it explains though how he is, because I mean, as a person, if you go and you YouTube him, he's a man of inspiration. He talks about the subconscious. He watches his words because what you put out, you become. So all that he's very, but he'll explain it deep. He'll explain it in small words, and it's so deep you be having aha moments like crazy. I love Deepak Chopra. He's awesome.
You do, and I learned a lot from him, and I've tried to practice it. Don't waste your words. Deepak said, what if you only got so many words in a lifetime? What would you use them for? And so that has always stuck with me. So I try not to talk about things that have no value to me. I try not to talk about things that don't make any sense. I try to reserve my words, as he said. What if you only get so many words in a lifetime?
That's what's that movie? Eddie Murphy, 1,000 Words. So he had to say his words very carefully before he ran out of
1,000 words.
Yeah, he had to run out of 1,000 words. When you Gally, I had a question on my head and I just forgot the question. But some of your hardest interviews are those interviews that they don't necessarily expound. How do you deal with that when they don't expound on a question that you're asking? Because I know you don't ask yes no answers or yes no questions, because that's terrible. But how do you expound? How do you pull it out?
But I have this, and you have to be able to follow me when I say this. I was always a little kid who knew everything.
Okay.
I was that kind of little kid, and I used to probably get on my parents' nerves to the hilt. I knew a lot about a lot of things. I didn't know subjects totally in depth, but I knew a lot about a lot of things because I read a lot. I still read a lot. I was at the library today. I am a reader. I love to read. So I know a lot of things. So when I do interviews and there's a lull, or sometimes people do interviews and they're not good at interviews and they can't express themselves. That falls on me to reinterpret their words for them. It falls on me to say, well, what I think you're saying to my audience, and I have to reinterpret that so they can say, yeah, that's what I wanted to say. Or if they don't have any words to fill in a question or a comment, it falls to me to say, okay, I guess you can't answer that because of your position or something like that.
Get off the hook, so to speak, so you can move on.
Yes.
Well,
and my phone rings 24 hours a day.
I can tell. Since we're talking to you, so where are you from? Okay. So where are you from?
My parents are from New Orleans. I grew up a little bit in New Orleans, but my parents were in the military, so we traveled a lot.
Ah, well, that the traveling helps you help you think you know it all too, isn't it? 'Cause you've been all over.
It this is what I would like to say to anybody's listening. Your life prepares you for life. It really does.
Mm-hmm.
Now, at any moment you think, it's so hard, it's so rough, it's so difficult. But my life prepared me for my life. What I mean
Mm-hmm.
by that, I know I must have went to 15, 16 different schools because my parents always had a different duty station. But what that prepared me for is I can walk into any
And
room,
it's, mm-hmm.
anywhere, and
And
be
talk to anybody.
extremely comfortable and have a good
Mm-hmm.
time. That's
Mm-hmm.
what going to all of those schools did to me, because I had to always walk in. School was always had already started by the time we got transferred to a duty station. I had to walk in and be a part of what already existed.
Mm-hmm.
And that gave me that ability as an adult. I can go anywhere, anywhere. No one has to look like me because most of my life people didn't look like me. And that never was a problem.
Yeah, that's kind of the same with me because I went through 4 different school districts in 4 years. And they wasn't all white, they wasn't all black, they was white, black, Mexican, and mixed. So and then 3 different schools in my junior year. So I do understand that. But mine was different. My parents said, when the rent was due, we got to move. So rent was due, we had to move. Um, so
No,
so
we had a construction company, so we moved around from state to state. So I understand that.
yeah, that's very understandable. Um, as you got into this, because you do a little writing too for iMessenger. So how did the writing came about? Is that a part of your whole media um your whole media thing?
It is, we're a media company. That's what we produce. We produce media. We produce
Mm-hmm.
media in audio. That's my radio connection. We
Mm-hmm.
produce media in video. That's my streaming TV connection. We produce media in print. I have a syndicated column based on my show. Everything is based on the Valder Beebe show. I don't do
Mm-hmm.
anything that's not connected to that because that's my base. I
Right.
have a column in 3 Texas newspapers:
Mm-hmm.
iMessenger, Texas Metro News, and the Garland Journal News. And
Mm-hmm.
it's based on the interviews that I've done because the celebrities are so wide reaching.
Mm-hmm.
They have a platform in multiple places.
Mm-hmm.
So the writing came about is it's just a part of media. But I'd like to say once again to the audience, if you love to read, you'll learn how to write. It
Yeah.
goes hand in hand. Remember, I told you I'm a voracious reader. I have always been a voracious reader. I'm a kid of the bookmobile. I've been reading all of my life. I love to read. And I'm usually reading 5, 6, 7, 8 books at one time because I love to read.
Yeah, I see your Friday chill. Your Fridays are off, but you out there, you got your book and everything reading.
Mhm.
You mentioned something about the library. Are libraries still open? I thought we just go to the internet and just read what you want on the
Libraries are
internet.
still open. They're open for people like me. The libraries are the foundation of this nation.
Mm-hmm.
You can tell we're going to be really in trouble if the library ever closes and don't open. Get out of town, I'm telling you.
And just
It's
leave
the
them to the
heart, it's
internet.
the and I'm serious, it's the heartbeat of America. It was founded on that principle to make information available to the American people so that they could flourish and so they could grow. That's
Mm-hmm.
why, and this is just my understanding of it, that's why African Americans were not allowed to go to the library for so long. That's why we were not allowed to read, because
Mm-hmm.
it is the foundation of this
Because our
nation.
mind
And
is
people did not want to give us a piece of this nation. So what they did, they barred us from the amenities of this nation. And the library and books are an amenity of America culture.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I agree. I agree. Now, not saying that I go, but I
mm,
agree.
And
I used
yes,
to
the
do.
we
libraries are
know because
still
you
open.
know they would
They
go.
They closed their doors briefly. I don't know how briefly, but then they opened with curbside service, and now
Mhm.
they're open. You can go in the library. And I try to go to the library at least once a month. I really do. I'm reading 4 books right now. I'm reading some old books. I'm reading because I'm studying Reconstruction from after the
Ah,
Civil War. So I'm
okay.
reading books by Lolita Tatamy. She
Mm,
wrote a couple of books, Red River, Cane River, a couple books that talk about the massacres that happened during Reconstruction. Very
wow.
interesting.
How do you read so many books at one time and not get them all mixed up? 'Cause
I,
my mom works at.
I thought everybody had this ability. It's like a conversation. Have you ever had a conversation, walked out of a room, came back, joined in it again?
Yeah, but
That's how you read.
Yes.
I always thought
That's
people
how
would
I
read
do
like that. I'll read a book. I'll read a chapter of it maybe sometime at night,
so
and the next night I can pick up just like a conversation. I know
it.
exactly where I have been, and it can be a different book, and it
It
doesn't matter.
it does happen. It
I
does
have a
happen like
comment.
that to other people.
I have a comment. Shelley says leaders are learners. That right?
I agree with Shelley.
Very, that's true.
And she likes to read
That's
too.
very true.
So
And I agree with you, Valder. Because I'm like that. I'm a reader and I love to read. And when I read
Hmm.
something, just like if I'm reading a book, if I walk away, what I'm seeing from the words that I read, now the picture's in my mind. So it's just like, watching a TV show and you walk away for a minute. So when you come back, you're going to pick up like, okay, so what did Charles say now? You're ready to pick up right where you left off. So
Is it?
because it now
I
becomes a picture in your mind. The words become a picture.
I love that analogy of a TV show. It's exactly like that. And people don't feel confused with a TV show. When you walk out of the room, you come back, you just pick it up. It's exactly the same in reading.
I just wait for the movie to come out because eventually it's gonna be a movie.
Hmm.
So I just wait for the movie to
Let
come
me
out.
let me just say a little bit about reading. If anybody remembers in this country, slaves were not allowed to read from the time they got here to way almost up until after Reconstruction, because after Reconstruction, which was 1865 through 1877, that period of time, there
Mm-hmm.
were laws that were enacted. There was
Mm-hmm.
no slavery, but it was another form of slavery: Jim
Mm-hmm.
Crow,
Jim Crow.
black
Yep.
codes,
Mm-hmm.
restrictions. Reading was still the highest priority for that period of time. They didn't want people to read. Now, we
Mm-hmm.
have to understand something that's being held. Why are you holding this back from us? Because it has a value to it.
Mm-hmm.
This is why people need to read rather than watch the movie. I watch the movie also too. I will read the book to see how the movie comes out. And I'm not against movies, but we must read. That's the thing about it. We still have to read. Reading is such a powerful thing. And like you said, I bet you Shelley agrees with me, Cedric.
Yeah. Here's one of her comments. I drive Cedric crazy with it, and she's a learner. She loves to learn. I mean, loves to learn. Um,
Well, I think that's a part, excuse me, one thing. I think if you can continue to read into your aging years, I think dementia and Alzheimer's will be less severe or you won't be impacted. I don't know which one, but as long as you keep your mind reading, you have a tool against those tools that don't have any kind of cure.
I can see that because you continue to exercise your mind
Yeah.
while you continue to exercise your mind. I can see that. Okay,
Mhm.
I'll start reading at 70, and we'll see what happens. Uh,
Okay.
Oh Lord.
I'm gonna get
um,
you some books for Christmas.
yeah. Oh man,
Me
they're not gonna be
too.
wrapped. They're gonna be there for next
No,
year.
we just gonna drop them off and be like, here, read.
Um, so as we continue to move forward with what we're talking about, what lessons do you want as far as aside from reading? Because I know it's the biggest lesson, but what other lessons do you want not only your interviewers or those that are out in the audience, what lessons do you want to teach them on a consistent basis as you continue to move forward within your career?
I have a simple philosophy. It's my goal to bring this information to people, and a lot of times I'll start my show with, "This is the Valder Beebe Show. I'm your host, Valder Beebe. It's my job to find the best people to help you change your life."
Okay, yeah.
That's simple. That's my simple philosophy, because we can all change our life. Right now, I'm trying to stop eating salt, any salt. I'm changing my life. Anybody that says that they don't need to change their life, they don't need to be on this planet, because everybody changes. We change. We should change to the end of the time we're on this planet. So my goal is to give people information that they say they can change their life. Now, every piece of information is not needed by everyone. Today, I talked to a lady who had yesterday, metastatic breast cancer. I did not know what metastatic breast cancer was.
What is that?
Metastatic breast cancer is cancer that forms outside of the breast. The doctor told me no one dies from cancer in their breast. They die from cancer coming out of their breast into other vital organs and other places.
Oh, wow.
This is the kind of information I want people to say, "I didn't know that. I need to get a mammogram. I need to take my mom to get a mammogram." I want them to change their life.
And that what you just said was great, because I didn't necessarily realize, but we tend to research what we like, even though what we don't like may be ones that's hurting us, the thing that's hurting us. And so that part I didn't know. That's good information. Talk about your other shows that you have. I know you have the gospel. I know you have your gospel talk. And what are the things you have that's coming up on horizon?
Well, your show on your gospel channel is called God Talk. That's where I have a specific agenda. I want to know, how'd you do that? How did you survive cancer? How did you survive that car crash that killed everybody else and you survived? How did you do that? And if you did survive that, I asked them, how did you do it? Do you have a higher power? Do you believe in God? Do you have some kind of spiritual practice? And you'll be surprised. Some people never mention God. Never. They said, I just pulled on my resources and I got up there and I did it. I did it my way. And that's what some people believe. But that's my job to bring that forward. So I do these interviews called God Talk. These people usually have had some kind of extraordinary experience. This man wrote a book. I will never forget him. I don't remember his name, but he said, "I survived cancer." He went to the hospital. He got real sick. He went to the hospital and the doctor pretty much told him that he had stage 4 cancer and he was not going to survive. He needed to go home and get his life in order. Oh, wow. He went home. He started researching. He changed his diet. He exercised what little that he could. He started thinking right. He started watching movies like The Secret. I'm telling you, this is what he did. And that was like 20 years ago. I interviewed him this year. He changed his life. He got rid of cancer. He never went through chemotherapy or anything like that. He ate well. He went back to the doctor. He got medicine, but he really, really changed his life. And he beat cancer.
Wow. But that's part of God talk. That's God talk. Because while he say I beat cancer, now God beat cancer for you. You need to start acknowledging that. Because God does things for us, even if we don't know it, he still does things for us. And
I think God is so confident in who he is, you don't have to give him credit. In the book of Esther, you didn't have to call him by name, but he was in charge. This is how God is.
Right.
Because what did he do over a period of time, those 20 years that he was trying to get through cancer? I guarantee you he helped other people where God wanted him to help other people.
He did, especially by telling his story, by writing the book. Now he lectures on that. He tells
Mm-hmm.
people, God did this for me. He'll do it for you.
Mm-hmm. What other things you have coming up? Anything that you have that's gonna be a mind blower that you think?
I don't know. Right now, I'm doing health updates, and I'm really, really enjoying that because
Mm-hmm.
I talk to so many top medical people, especially during COVID 19. It's not all about COVID 19, but they're talking about different things. One of the things people are hammering home to me on my interviews: underlying conditions of African Americans. Those two things. Those
Mm-hmm.
people want to help us. They say we have to shed these underlying conditions. What are underlying conditions? Hypertension, high blood
Mm-hmm.
pressure,
Mm-hmm.
obesity. All of these are underlying conditions that are the target for when you get the flu and when you get
Mm-hmm.
COVID 19. So
Mm-hmm.
I created health updates. It's like a 90-second update. And it tells you just a little bit of information about when to get a mammogram, when to get your yearly physical,
Mm-hmm.
what cancer really is, what hypertension really is, because we really don't know these things. We know them by their name, but people don't know that. Some people don't know that hypertension and high blood pressure are the exact same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so
Just
a
call us.
90-second update and health update, that's what I'm really, really working on. Working on some new components for my show. My show now has, last time it got metered, with all the entities from radio,
Mm-hmm.
TV, social media, online, print. I have about close to 10 million people that connect with the Valder Beebe show in different
Wow.
spheres. No one place, but they connect in all those different spheres. So, in going forward, I will continue to leverage that and make that
Mm-hmm.
better. My videos, I'd love for people to go to valderbbshow.com. My videos, they are just superb.
Yeah, go ahead.
I've,
Pat yourself on
I've
the back.
taken a
Go ahead.
leap forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, and we have it on our website also. So yes, please pat yourself on the back because when I do go back and do our numbers, your shows do come up pretty as a number one. The one thing we're going to kind of do going forward though is we're going to start putting some of your celebrity interviews on the old school R&B hip hop station because we had them on the we have them on the jazz. I'm not jazz, but the gospel. And we'll keep those shows going on the gospel. We'll start putting a schedule together to get those shows on the R&B and hip hop station also because the
That's
interviews.
really, really good because at one time I guess you had some problem with the station not being on, being down, or whatever, and people were emailed that digital messaging me,
Mm-hmm,
asking me,
mm-hmm.
well, why the station not up, why I can't hear your show, and all that kind of stuff. We need a schedule. So you got an audience. It's my job to get the audience. You just got to give them access.
We'll definitely do that. And I see that you sent me four health updates. One is register to vote, voting amendments, going to the polls, vote and heard vote.gov. When was the first time you actually voted? Do you remember the first time you voted?
Oh, the first time I voted, I don't know, when I turned 18.
Okay.
That's the first time I voted. But let me tell you about health updates real quick. Dr.
Mm-hmm.
Richard Besser, who was the CDC the former CDC chief, he is the one that
Mm-hmm.
inspired me to do this. He said, Valder, he said, you've got such a great platform. He said, you need to help people to vote.
Mm-hmm.
He said, voting has a lot to do with health. It's linked to your health. He
Oh
said,
wow.
not voting can make you stressed. So he linked voting to health. That's why I did voting for health update.
Wow. Okay. Makes sense now because I always say this: if you don't vote, you ain't got a word to say. Don't go out there and protest. Don't go out there and act like you're standing on somebody's shoulders. You don't vote. You have a word. You have nothing to say because you didn't help the process. Going out there protesting is not helping the process when you don't vote.
Well,
I,
people have a
I'm
lot to say on Facebook, and I don't think most of them voting.
no, I don't think so either. You know, and I'm not that guy. You know how you people go to the polls and put this little patch on their shirt and say, I voted. Well, if you've been voting all your life, you don't have to show people you voted. As a matter of fact, we can look at the voter log and see who voted and who didn't. You know, but I remember the first
Yep.
time I voted, it was I turned 18, and it was George Bush Sr. against Michael Dukakis, and I
Oh,
remember
you
writing.
remember.
I remember
Yeah,
that one.
I remember writing a paper about George Bush Sr. and Michael Dukakis and things. I said, "Ooh, I don't want to vote for Dukakis. I'm sorry." You know, and I'm not a straight voter. We talked about this a couple weeks on the other show. I'm not that guy who goes straight Democrat because I understand all Democrats and all Republicans, you need both parties. You need both parties, and if you go straight one party, then you're really leaving out some other help that the other party can give you. So you know,
Mm-hmm.
I'm definitely going to start running those your night the health tips, because I think in the time and age that we are now, uh, at the fluctuation of the country right now, you need everybody to the polls. You know, and if you don't get everybody to the polls, and I don't want to see somebody out there on the street protesting and they didn't vote. That does no good for me.
Well, I think it's even bigger than that, Cedric. People in America, we don't know the history of America. We don't know the history of African Americans, not just
Hmm.
African American. We just don't know the history of America. You have to
Hmm.
go back and have some understanding of the history. And
Yep.
part of that, so much of our history is wrapped up in slavery from the time the colonists got here and brought slaves here to today. So
Hmm.
people, I would recommend that they go back and look at the Lincoln years. If anything else, go back and look at the Lincoln years. Look
Yeah.
at the Republican Party, which was the
Hmm.
party of Lincoln, which was a party for African Americans at the time.
Hmm.
That's
I
a
agree.
recommendation.
No, and you're absolutely right, because the party of the Republican era, we have to understand that the party of the Democratic era is a party that they didn't start the Ku Klux Klan, but the Ku Klux Klan that will help you get rid of all these African American voters. You know, and so that's kind of how even the Jim Crow laws. It makes no sense to me. Why would we vote for something that we've been trying to get rid of for the longest? Why we vote in that party that we've been trying to get rid of Jim Crow laws for the longest? We vote into that same party, totally. You know, we didn't start becoming naturally Democrats until I think Goldberg. That was in '67 when they signed the bill when they signed the Civil Rights Act. Um, LBJ and Goldberg, that whole situation there. And he only did that. Hey, we can get more black voters to do it this way. So I'm with you. Do your history. I mean, do your homework. Just
I'm sorry, my phone just rings all the time.
But that was a nice song, though. I mean, I'm just like just rocking right along with it. No,
I will say.
I think you're right when it comes to especially knowing your history. I think
Hmm.
you're very right about knowing your history and going back, because I know one thing that I'm learning, especially when it's we're talking about voting and people need to get out and vote. One thing that I'm learning is my ancestry right now, and while
Hmm.
I'm doing my ancestry, I'm learning about my fifth generation great grandfather who was a captain in the Revolutionary War, or my fifth generation great grandfather who helped to make the laws when the first 13 colonies were being formed. He was a lawmaker, and so it's just like you're looking at all these people and it's talking about voting and making these laws, and the people that are making the decisions is really kind of like bringing it all together as to paying attention to what's being put out there, because this is going to affect your life
Yeah,
going forward, at least for the next 8 years.
yeah. As we get ready to close, tell us how can people get in touch with you, Valder? As we get ready to close, how can people get in touch with you? I got it scrolling down on the bottom screen if you can see that.
Oh, it's
But
really simple. They can go to 411 Radio Network and click and find me there, or they can go to valderbbshow.com and click and find me there. I'm real easy, or just Google me.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. And then you come up with a whole list. But if we Google you, I gotta read the whole book on you. That's a long book. So if I
There
got,
is a
I
book.
don't like to, I don't like to
You don't
read.
like to read. Well, she
So
hasn't
why
made
don't
a movie yet, Cedric. So that's coming now.
Remember, you
you?
got to read the book first and then watch the movie. So you got to
Well,
read.
well, I'll let my wife read,
Hang
and
that
I'll
up, Valder.
ask.
Just hang it up.
I'll let Shelly read, and I'll ask her questions as she finishes reading.
Okay. Well, we're going to have to do a whole show on people who were barred from reading and how important that is. We can do a whole show on that.
Well, you know what? You're right. We
Definitely.
just watched. We're watching this. Here I go watching it again. We're watching. What is that called? The good. God. Good Lord Bird, and this is about John Brown. And some of the characters, John Brown was a real character. Some of the other characters were not necessarily real. But there's one character that says, "I'm learning how to spell letters, how to write my letters." He knows how to write letters. And my grandfather used to say this all the time. Well, I'll be John Brown. I used to think, you gotta understand who John Brown is to understand how my grandfather felt, because he would say that all the time. Well, I'll be John Brown. And they said, Granddaddy, who the heck is John Brown? Because I didn't know who he was until I did read to learn who John Brown was. But they're in these movies that we've been watching, the reading part, you're absolutely right, is very important. And if you knew how to read then, you didn't tell nobody that you knew how to read. You kept it to yourself. Because if the white person knew that you knew how to read, there's going to be trouble to play.
If you knew how to read back in there was severe punishment for people who know how to read. You
Mm-hmm.
could be branded.
Mm-hmm.
You could have your eyes put out. You
Or
could
you
be
could be hung.
sold away. There were
Mm-hmm.
so many things. So the slaves knew there was something to reading. This is why reading was so important to them, because it was
Mm-hmm.
held back from them. And they're
Mm-hmm.
right. Reading gave you freedom.
Yeah.
People wanted to learn how to read. And sometimes I get very sad, and then I have to remind myself not to be so sad when we are in a America where reading is available, the library is available, and people don't read. And I'm talking about people, period, no particular color, and people don't
Mm-hmm.
read.
Well,
So, if anything I could leave your listening audience with tonight is read. Read as much as you can. Read on whatever you're interested in. I know you like sports, Cedric. Read
oh,
sports book. It doesn't matter. You
now
start
that I
reading
do.
there. Read books
That I
of
do.
interest for you, and that will help you to read other things. Right now, I'm reading the Constitution. That's the most boring thing on this planet. But I need to know what the Constitution says. And I have learned that the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment, that is the most important thing in the Constitution for me, because it
I was gonna say,
eradicated slavery,
Really
it
don't
gave
pertain them.
black men the right to vote, and it gave us our civil rights.
yep, yep. Shelly asked, any books you recommend right now
And she
besides
said,
the con?
what?
She would know if any books you recommend.
I
Any
recommend
books?
right
Do
now.
you
I told you I'm
recommend any
reading
books?
Lolita Tamdi. She was a big push on Oprah Winfrey show at one time. She wrote this
Mm-hmm.
book Red River, and she wrote a book called Cane River. And they talk about the Reconstruction era. They talk about the massacres. People talk about the Black Wall Street massacre.
Mm-hmm.
There were 21 massacres during Reconstruction's time. And when I say
Wow.
massacre, that means that people were killed in large volumes. African
Mm-hmm.
Americans were killed in large volumes. And they happened everywhere. They happened in Louisiana. They happened in Oklahoma. They happened all across America. And people don't
Mm-hmm.
believe that things like this happened in the North. The North had their own brand of prejudice. And they definitely were prejudiced. They just dealt with it in a different way. But unless we read these books, we won't know. So I recommend Lolita Tamdi and her books that she wrote. She only wrote two books, Cane River and Red River. Get a
Mm-hmm.
copy of those.
All right, so get a copy of those. And then Rosewood was good too. Rosewood is good. Is something you might want to
Rosewood
read
is
too.
one of the massacres in that time. There were 21 of them. Rosewood is also one of them.
I was worked at the Associates, and I actually talked to a lady who was part of that, who was a child from Rosewood, because I just saw I saw the movie. Okay, I didn't read it. I saw the movie, But I actually talked to the lady who was a chaplain when Rosewood was going on, and she kind of expounded upon that whole situation, that whole scene. So I'm fascinated by history. So if I'm gonna read something, I'm gonna read history. I love history. Um, but when is the next time we can have you back on? This is fun.
You just let me know. You know, I got my time mixed up tonight.
That's okay. We stretched it for you.
I would love to come back. This has been so informative with you and Tamika. I really appreciate you guys letting me be on the show and to talk about the Valder Beebe show, which is just an incredible opportunity. It's my destiny at this time in life. Because you know, I told you, Cedric, I come from the high tech sector. Never did I think this was not a plan. This was not something in my heart. This was God's destiny for me. Don't know if this will be the rest of my destiny, but right now, this is my destiny.
And this is your spot, not a spotlight, but this is the way you get quote unquote God's word out there too. This is your platform. How you get
And I
God's
get
word
to
out
meet
there.
good people like you and Tamika, so I feel very blessed.
Well, we're the ones who feel
Oh,
blessed.
thank you. We're blessed. This
Yeah.
is awesome. And I'm looking, I'm seeing that it's going across the screen. Are you a Garland girl?
I am. I live in Garland and I love Garland. It's a cross between the country and the
I am
city. I love
too.
it.
Yes,
Oh,
Well,
it
you
is.
do?
I went to Lakeview and I went to Lyles. I'm a G Town girl. I'm a Garland girl. Yeah, I
I love
graduated from
Garland.
Lakeview Centennial. Yes,
well,
I live in
Oh, well,
Rowlett,
you
so
are
I'm
got to
right
be
out there
good
by
people if you're from Garland.
Lakeway Hubbard.
well,
Yes,
we
we're
Oh,
gonna have
well,
to get together
I
and go
feel
to the
so
harbor.
special.
we won't hold that against, we won't hold that against y'all. I'm not gonna hold that against y'all. You can still come back on the show. It's okay. Some people have their own hangups. But it was very nice talking to you, Valder. And we'll talk a little bit more. But again, glad to have you on the show. This has been 411 Sports Entertainment Spotlight. I'm not sports.
Uh,
411
You
Entertainment
just don't
Spotlight.
like Entertainment Spotlight anymore.
No,
We have become 411 Sports for the past 3 weeks. We are four. Hi, everybody. You've
this is
been watching Cedric Lyons. I'm Tamika V, and this is Valder BV. And thank you for watching 411 Entertainment Spotlight.
that's all I needed.
Watch us
Thank you,
every
y'all.
Wednesday.
Yes, y'all have
Thank
a
you
good day.
guys.
Oh,
Be
Cedric.
blessed.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you.